and the souls that are to my left have just magnificent, heroic stories to tell you. And you know, there's this saying, the heart of a lion, and that means a heart that's filled with bravery, with tremendous courage. And I think what Baba has done for us is he's given us a much larger heart than a heart of a lion, because we're the ones that ride the lions. So we have 4 tremendous stories up here, and I would like to introduce our panelists, starting with Sister Pratibha from Kenya, and Brother Sasha from Russia, Sister Helena from Poland, and Sister Dolly from USA. And they all have wonderful stories, and I've heard their stories. And I'm going to start with Sister Pratibha. But you know, I was thinking of courage is something that we think of courage as coming in like a big storm, right? With a lot of velocity and power. But courage sometimes does that, but sometimes courage comes in like a soft wind, like a breeze that just accumulates and it starts to howl in the wind. It takes a lot of courage for that kind of scenario too. So after listening to Pratibha's story, she's one that entered a storm of courage. So Pratibha, I'd like for you to tell us your story.
Om Shanti. I think the translators, are they getting translation? And, as you know, I'm from Africa, but I was born in Africa, raised in Africa and educated there. I met Baba in Africa, and I dedicated my service there. But of course, when the media shows us the image of Africa, it's conditioned. You know, all these poor children, black children, suffering. And I've not been brought up in that environment. For me, Africa is luxury, fresh air, you know, like a little princess. That's how I was brought up. So I didn't have any image of Africa on the other side. So what I would like to say is, please don't take the field of Africa as what I'm sharing, because that was first time for me also. So we have the most luxurious side of it, but most challenging side also. And you all know that Africa has its own culture based on tribes, but it was colonized by the British, Spanish, Portuguese, French, Italian, and German. And of course, the Middle East. So we have a lot of cultures, a lot of system, different laws, different currencies. Everything is very diverse in each country, in the 56 countries on the continent. Couple of years ago, I was on a tour of about 8 to 10 countries for Rakhi program. And of course, the travel is so expensive that you can't say that somebody should just come with me for company's sake. That's not allowed. That's not possible. I go alone with Baba, and we do programs for Rakhi, and you come back. That's it. So I'm based in Kenya, Nairobi, the headquarters of Africa, which is a very beautiful place. But I was traveling in the west part of Africa, which is very war-torn, broken, no infrastructure, no system, It's a very, very, disoriented part of the continent. And I had very fixed travel dates, because if I miss out anywhere, I would miss out a program, which was not very easy. So I'm giving you this story of two countries which were two colonies, former colonies, a Spanish colony and a French colony. So I was in Equatorial Guinea. Those who know, it's a tiny little island, and the laws are very, very, very tough. To get visas to that country is very difficult, not because it's an extremely beautiful country, but because it produces oil. It's like a very, very, supposed to be very rich country, and so they're very strict. And you get visas through the Spanish embassy only, and it's very difficult. So I got my visas, but they only gave me for 2 weeks. And I wanted to spend more time so we could use the whole trip very nicely, which I did for 2 weeks at least. And then I was supposed to fly to a French colony, which is Gabon, not very far from there. And then I go back to Nairobi, my base. So I could finish my whole trip in that way. We had a Colombian sister who was the coordinator there in that center. So I told her that I need to confirm my flights, because I might get stuck in this country I cannot afford because of my visas. My visas are finishing. So I'll give you a very short example. On Sunday, I was supposed to travel to another country. And on Tuesday, my visas expire. Once the visa expire, you cannot extend those visas. You cannot overstay in that country, because if you overstay and you're caught, you go straight into prison. And so you have to be very careful. And I was in a small little town, and so I went to the airlines on Friday, being a weekend. So I went on a Friday and I said, can you please reconfirm my flights for Sunday? And they said, sorry, your airline is bankrupt. So it's all cancelled, little local airlines. So I said, when is it going to start? So we don't know, maybe 6 months, 1 year. So I said, how do I get out of this country? So that we don't know. But anyway, I had to work very hard. I missed a flight which was going out in about hour's time. So I couldn't come out of the country. That was just a little story. Now, I had to find out how to get out of that country before Tuesday. Otherwise, I'm in trouble. So there were no flights going out. We tried everything, because I was in a second small town. The capital city had flights going to Spain, to other parts of the world. But to reach there was an issue, because there's no road, there's no domestic flights to the capital city, there's boat. But that boat also takes off when they have passengers. So maybe they will not have full passengers for a week, and so they won't take off. So anything what I got was after Tuesday. So I asked a very prominent local person, how can I go out of this country? Because I want to get out of this country before Tuesday. He gave me very good guidance. You could take a cab from here to a nearest little a river port, where you could take a little canoe and go across to the other country. So I said, all right. So I asked Sister Vedanti, should I do that? She says, you'll have to, because there's no other way. But both of you sisters travel together. Don't get separated till you come to the nearest center. So I and Sandra were supposed to travel together tomorrow morning at Amritvela. At night, she tells me, Sister Pratibha, I cannot travel with you because I do not have exit visa. In that country, you need entry visa, but you also need exit visa. And so she can't come with me. So she came to the border. We went into the woods, deep into the woods, and broken roads, no tar roads, nothing. We arrived to this little fisherman town called Kogo Beach, where they don't have anything. It's just a local transportation, Because this country, Equatorial Guinea, produces Spanish wine in that country, they transport this wine in these little canoes. And so it's a very, very highly corrupt country. Every time you go anywhere, police stop, barriers, vino. They want vino. They want wine, money. Anyway, so I arrived. I got this little canoe, which was full with wine boxes. And I asked him, can you please take me across? I paid him money. I sat on those boxes and I started my journey. This boatman was asking me, do you know how to swim? I said, I know how to swim in a swimming pool, which I haven't done it for many years, but I don't know how to swim in an ocean. He says, it's quite dangerous. So he gave me a broken life jacket, which was okay. And I sat in that boat. There were 4 local people who were transporting their wine, 2 boatmen, and boatman's little young sister who was going across the border.
Hold on for a moment.
Yes.
Because when Pratibha was telling me this story and she told me a canoe, I thought, a canoe, it must be a kind of a boat.
One.
We can put the slide on now, the slide. So National Geographic sent us this picture of you in this, and it actually is a canoe. It'll take a few minutes for the slide to come up, but it'll show up behind us. And it's amazing to think that you were in this canoe with all this wine. And she's sitting there on boxes.
And that was 1.5 hours.
And half-hour ride?
1.5 hours.
1.5 hour ride.
So it's a huge river coming out of Equatorial Guinea, and it has a confluence with the Atlantic Ocean. Now, some of you might know that Atlantic Ocean is a very, very rough ocean, gray, cold, extremely cold. And so it's not like Indian Ocean. And so that confluence is so dangerous that a lot of time these canoes have capsized there. And a lot of people have drowned there. So this is why the boatman was very concerned. And so when we were there, it was so bad and so dangerous. And there were huge waves which drenched us completely freezing cold. And so we managed to go through that confluence very easily in Baba's remembrance. Is
National
it there?
Geographic.
Can you see? Sandra took that picture.
Can we shut the lights on the stage for a moment so they can see? Can you see back there?
No, I don't think they can see it properly. Switch off the lights, brother. Yeah, that's better.
Is that amazing? Courage? And she's sitting there like a goddess, like a Shakti on a lion.
Anyway, so we started and we finished the journey 1.5 hours. I'm not going into a lot of details, but when we arrived there, this canoe cannot go to the shores. So it drops you in the middle of water. So at least there's this much water there. And this boatman tells me, can I carry you across? I said, no, you don't need to carry me, I'll walk. But it's so dirty, which I have never ever witnessed anything like that. But I had to walk through that dirt and came to the shores. And there's
How
a little...
deep was that? How deep was the water? Tell them.
It was till my chest. Yeah, but I walked with sari. Anyway, I was completely dirty and drenched, and you can just imagine how dirty it was. But when I arrived, I was like, oh, the worst is over now, Baba. Thank you very much. And my luggage, and I went into this one concrete building. That was the immigration office. And there were 2 immigration officers who does not speak a word of English, only French. And I had legal visas from the embassy. And this brother was about to stamp my passport. And the other one, the senior immigration officer, said in French, don't stamp her passport. She cannot enter this country. So we have to send her back to Equatorial Guinea. And I do not have my Equatorial Guinea visas now. So I would be illegal there. I am at least legal here, but I don't know why they don't want me to enter. I asked them and they had no answer to me because they don't speak a word of English, so they didn't want to speak anything. Anyway, so I just left them because I explained them for at least 1 hour. We left at 3:30 in the morning. I took my boat at 7 in the morning. 10 o'clock I was across the border and I was arguing with them. First I explained them very lovingly. They didn't understand. Then I had to take a cab or a bus to the nearest capital city airport. That's 5 hours ride. And so I said, please let me go. I need to reach. My flight is tomorrow. But they didn't understand. So I just took a plastic chair, went out, sat. I had my meditation, I had my murli, my little breakfast. You can't see anything what you can buy around. It's just little shacks, you know, African shacks where they sell the sugar-colored water. We don't even know whether that water is, you know, drinkable or anything. So you can't go and buy mineral water anywhere or check in a hotel or anything like that. But the only support I had was Baba, one, but the other gross support was my phone. Because middle of nowhere, my network was still on. It was working. So I could at least tell Sandra I've reached, at least inform, you know, that I'm here and this is what is happening. I could connect with Nairobi, I could connect with London. Because Brother Vinay was working on my flights to take me out of the country. Anyway, I just sat there till noon. Sister Vedanti said 1 o'clock, you know, you need to tell me because I don't want you to be there when it's dark. And in few hours time, it's going to be dark. So what are you going to do? Tell me. I went into the immigration office. They were not replying to anything. At 4 o'clock, of course, we informed the center. So Brother Gee and Brother Karim, they were coming with local students, but they had to drive for 5 hours. They didn't know where this place was. But this local brother, Brother Davy, was from that village, and he knew little bit. So he was with them, which was very sensible. Anyway, at 4 o'clock, the immigration officers came. And the boatmen carried all my luggage, and I was wondering where they were going. And these two immigration officers are pulling me as though I'm illegal. I mean, I'm illegal in the country and I've performed some crime. They're pulling me to the boat and sending me back to that country. And I just stopped them. I left everything. I don't care about the luggage now. I just had to be safe myself. And I went back into the immigration office. I sat there in Baba's remembrance. They all came and crowded me and said, you have to get out of this country. I said, look, I have legal visas here. I have paid $85. I will only speak to the federal police. Get me the federal police and I'll speak to them. I'm not going to talk to you people anymore now. So they couldn't do anything. I said, if the luggage go, let it go. I don't care about the luggage. I have to take care of myself. The passport was with them. Anyway, I waited there and waited there. It was 7 o'clock at night. And because I said I want to speak to the federal police, they were a bit concerned now. But I had no idea why they were doing this to me. I had no idea. They were not ready to tell me. At 7 o'clock, these brothers arrived from Baba's house. And Brother Davy, who is a local brother, sat and talked to them. But he also brought his father, who is about 20 kilometers away into the woods. He has his own little village. So that brother, who I don't know, of course, Davy is in knowledge, but his father was not in, he was like a chief of the village. So he also came. So they all sat and they talked, and he put some guarantee that if this lady does not leave the country tomorrow, he can be prisoned, I can be prisoned, all these things with a lot of confidence. That was very nice of this local brother. And then they allow me to get out from that office. They gave my passport. When they gave my passport, it's like, you know, freeing yourself from the, the tribunal of Dharmaraj. That's what I felt. Anyway, so I told the brothers, now we need to start our journey because it's 7:30 and we need to drive 5 hours. And one of the instrument brothers of the center is telling me, very yoga-yukt, very sweet, very soft. And he's telling me, sister, no, we are not going to Libreville. Yeah, I wanted to go to the washroom because there's no washroom around there. I want to take out this filthy clothes. I'm drenched. There's nothing like anywhere to go. So this brother tells me, no, we're going to Brother Davy's village now, which is 20 kilometers ahead, and we're going to do service there. And I was like, what? You know? And of course I was going to be very angry. But I said, no, you can't do that. Just keep quiet. You know? I said, okay, all right. So let's go to this village now. I had no idea how I was going to do service with this dirty things on. But I arrived there. It was a village, little thatch huts, which I have never seen in my lifetime, born in Africa. There's no electricity, mosquitoes, packed with mosquitoes, and no water, no running water. So I said, I need to wash my hands, and they collect rainwater. So they gave me some water. I washed my hands. I sat, and they were all there, you know, the extended family, whole African extended family. And I started sharing knowledge, Baba's knowledge with them. I spoke in English, brother translated in French, and they were all so nice, under candlelight. After 1.5 hours of service, I shared Toli, I shared blessing, I had everything with me. And then very softly, I said, you know, we were supposed to spend the night there, and I had no idea where we were going to spend the night, but anyway, very lovingly at around 11:30, 12 o'clock, midnight, I said, can we now leave for Libreville? And the brother said, yes, you and one brother can carry on with the journey. We will spend the night here, do more service, and come tomorrow. I said, oh, thanks, Baba. You know, and we started our journey. From morning, when I left Baba's house at 3:30 in the morning after Amrit Vela, till I arrived in Libreville, which was again, you know, Amrit Vela maybe, you know, I was very strong. I was very strong. I didn't have fear. I didn't cry. The only concern was I wanted to get out of that place, so I was working hard for that. But on my way to Libreville, I started, when the network came in, you know, a lot of phone calls started coming in. And some of them were not sleeping whole nights. Sister Vedanti, Brother Tony, Brother Vinay, Sandra. And I was like, what are you people doing, staying awake? Say, you are in trouble. How can we sleep? We are all doing yoga, you know. And few tears came into my eyes, to be very honest. I felt, you know, I've got such a beautiful family around me that my problem is their problem. I'm not sleeping, they're not sleeping, you know. And so I've got such a beautiful family. I'm so lucky. Thanks, Baba. This was the only. And then I arrived in Baba's house. I had shower. I had to thrash the clothes. And next day was 25th of August, a couple of years ago. And that was Dadiji's first anniversary. And so we had to do Brahma Bhojan, we had to do class. So we did all that. And then I left that country. I've been to that country many times after that. And the next year when I was going, a lot of people were concerned. Are you not scared? You know, are you going to that country? We thought you will never ever put your foot there. I said, no, I'm going. When I arrived at the airport, there were 4 brothers who came to pick me up in a broken car. I didn't even know whether this car was going to reach where we were supposed to reach. But I asked the name, who are they? One brother I knew, Brother Davy, who put all the guarantee for me. But the others I didn't know. So I asked one brother in uniform, yeah? White uniform, Baba's badge. And I was like, I don't even know this brother. So I said, brother, what's your name? So he says, my name, sister, is Frere Mahavir. So I said, what? Said, Frere Mahavir. I've never heard this name before in this family. So I said, since when have you been in knowledge? He says, 1 year. And I was like, oh, okay. Who gave you the course? And he tells me, you know, my mother is so brave, my spiritual mother is so brave, that the child has to be brave. And that's why I named myself Mahavir. And I was like, I don't still understand. He says, remember you came last year to the village at night? I said, yes. He said, I was the owner of that house. And I came to knowledge after that, after you share knowledge. And I am Baba's very strong child. And he named himself Mahavir from the Murli.
Beautiful.
And they're running Baba's house there now. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Pratibha Ben. Amazing, isn't it, how karmas can come around, and this whole story had to happen to find this child. So what a story of courage, huh? How does your heart feel? We've got 3 more. And I'd like to ask Brother Sasha now to tell his story. And the storm is getting bigger.
Om Shanti. I've got a disclaimer, sort of about my courage. I was very scared as I came to know that I have to speak on courage. And I thought that why me? Because really, I come from Russia, basically, from St. Petersburg, Leningrad, and I have seen so many beautiful stories of courage around me there, in that city and in other places, in Russia and in neighboring countries. The first example of courage were our teachers who came from India in their white saris, like Sister Pratibha came to that village at night. They came to the Soviet Union, just having their white saris and little suitcases, and not speaking much Russian, or not speaking Russian at all. And that was courage, and I saw it from the very beginning. And so many other examples, how, especially in the very beginning of services, Baba services there, when the country just collapsed, the Soviet Union collapsed, and these newly formed countries, they were extremely poor, and we didn't have enough money for our tickets to Madhuban, and we didn't have enough, enough money to buy food sometimes. And Baba says you should not eat, non-veg food, and you should eat this or that only. And sometimes you have to, get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and wait in the line outside the shop when the shop opens to enter inside and to buy some bread or milk. That was quite challenging. But people were doing that with so much love. And Baba sometimes says in his Murlis that you should listen to the stories of how they collect money for their tickets. Because I know many stories of the sisters, very old sisters, who were pensioners already, who were retired, but they found some jobs and they started working at the age of, they were 65, 70, 75, and young people were complaining that, we don't have enough money to go to India. We would invite VIPs for retreats, and they would say, but we don't have enough money, the situation in the country. And yet these people, elderly people, they were making it, and they could go to Baba every year, or they would just shift. For instance, someone stays alone, and she owns a flat, so she goes to live with another BK sister, and she just rents her flat, and she gets money for that. But she renounces her, comforts, her home, and so many different stories like that. And I really would like you to hear all those people. They are really much more courageous than I am. But the problem, I think, was the language.
But we're going to hear your beautiful story, Brother Sasha.
So that it's true that sometimes I just feel that they were so and are so dedicated to Baba and love Baba so much. So they are just doing wonders. And the story I just thought about it's also related with traveling. And this is my very first trip to Madhuban. It was in 1992, and I came to Baba 2 years before that. So 2 years in Gyan, and no possibilities to go to India. My scholarship was such that I had to study for another, 25 to 30 years to get my ticket to India. So, which was, but somehow it was decided, and we were 8 people, and we were very happy that, okay, now we are going to meet Baba, we are going to Madhuban, and at that time our flight was via Tashkent, the capital of Uzbekistan, and we had to change connecting flights there in Tashkent. And as we reached the airport, we found out that there was a mistake in our tickets. It was not our mistake, not our fault. It was their fault, the air company. So they said, sorry, you can't go tonight. You will have to wait for 5 more days here in Tashkent and in a hotel. But it meant that we are going to miss meeting Baba. And that was a tragedy for us. And we said, is there any other way? And they said, yes, there is another way. Then you will not go to the hotel. You will have to stay at the airport. And if by chance, we don't know, there are some other flights and they land here, they do some technical things, I don't know exactly. So then maybe you can go by those planes, But then we are not responsible. Then you will not go to the hotel. You will have to stay at the airport. We said yes, all 8 of us. We said yes, we will stay at the airport. And the thing was that it was March. It was March, and it was quite cold, and we didn't have any warm clothes with us. We left it because we were so happy. Just we are going to Baba and coming back in April, so it will be quite warm already in Russia by that time. So we don't need it. No warm clothes. So we just had something very light things on us, and no money also, because all the money was spent for the ticket. Just a few dollars. That's it. And the airport was under reconstruction at that time, so one wall of the airport was absent. It was a very strange, structure, but lots of fresh air, but very cold, And we had to sleep on those benches, and we were not alone. There were other people facing the same problem, the same situation. And they were from some southern parts of Russia, where traditionally Muslim republics of the Soviet Union, and they were very agitated. They would cry, and they would say that we will kill all of you if we are not sent to India immediately, something like that. But nothing could be done. So they decided to stay at the airport, and that group and our group. Then they were mostly crying, shouting, and quarreling with everyone. And we decided, that was actually our first thought was very weak, to tell you the truth. Our very first thought, my thought was, okay, Baba does not love me. No, Baba does not want me to come. So this is why it happened. And then I looked at others, and they sort of felt that they had the same, well, why is it happening? Why is our karma like that? And then we said to ourselves, no way. Baba loves us. We are knowledgeable souls for so many years, 2 years in Gyan, so many years. And so it is a test for us. And we are 8, and it is not by chance. It is symbolic. We are the rosary of victory. And if we follow Baba's Shrimat exactly, 100%, Baba will send us to Madhuban and we are going to meet Baba. So the next morning, it was night time, so the next morning we got up at 3:30 in the morning. All our alarms, alarm clocks went off, and all other people at the airport were scared, and 8 people in white clothes, nighttime, 3:30, they are sitting in a circle, and alarm clocks, and they start it was meditation. They didn't know, but we knew that we have to do it. Amrit Vela, meditation, remembering Baba, and no worries, no negative thoughts, because Baba says you should not think about problems, you should think about solutions. So 4:45, Amrit Vela finished. Then Murli class. We had no Murlis, printed Murlis at that time with us, just our diaries, our notebooks. So every one of us would open their diary and read some points. Others would listen, write down, Murli class, okay, finished, we did it. Presence, attendance marks, 100%, we did it. The most interesting was Bhog part, because no money, and no food with us. We were lucky. In Uzbekistan, in Tashkent, they have very cheap bread, lavash. It is like very big and thick chapatis, and it's very cheap. So we had enough money for that, so we could buy that. And one sister, she had some problems with her stomach, so she took a pack of cereals with her, and we got hot water and making this something, and another sister had some honey, and so putting honey on that and putting a piece of that big chapati and offering that to Baba, in the middle of the airport. People around us, they knew already that we are crazy, but still they were like sort of but the thing is that, okay, we did that also. At least 2 times a day, offering bhog to Baba. And then karma yoga, right? Which means solving our problem. Other passengers who had the same situation, they were just crying and quarreling. Actually, we were doing everything. We were meeting officials. We were talking to them. We were sort of analyzing, the options that they would offer to us. They were very much, they wanted us actually to be safe, and they really sort of felt that, okay, these people are good. So they wanted to help, but really there was no option, no margin to. But it was continuous. So the first day passed, and then the second day passed the same way. Fresh air, no wall. At the airport, and Amrit Vela, morning Murli class, then offering bhog to Baba, then karma yoga. The third day morning, one sister from that group, of the Muslim group, she came to us. No. We were sort of, we could do something, not much. Yeah, and so that sister came to us and she said that, please ask your God to do something, because we really have to be in Delhi tomorrow. So we said to her, yeah, we will do that. Our God is almighty. And so we sat together and shared some knowledge with her. And there was no connection with Moscow or St. Petersburg. We tried to call, it was just not possible to connect. And once we connected Brother Vijay in Moscow, and the only thing we could hear from him that, "Have you taken your lunch today?" After that, connection was broken, so we could not answer. So 3 days, and one more thing was there. I'm not taking much time, it's okay, just 5 minutes. One more thing was there, and it's a mystery, and even now I don't know what happened. On the second day at the airport, we got a telegram. Someone of the airport officials gave us a telegram saying that it was in Russian, that tell the members of the Russian group that their trip to Madhuban is cancelled. And it was signed by Dadi Gulzar. It was in Russian. That was a mystery. It is a mystery even now. As we were going to airport in Petersburg, we met one person who was sort of a little bit mentally, disturbed. So, and he knew that we were going to Madhuban. So, that's my guess, that the telegram was sent by that person. But I don't know anything. But
just another obstacle in the course of the obstacle.
But for us, so it was like the situation was like that. So we could not analyze properly, maybe. Well, the telegram from Russia, coming, with a Russian stamp, the telegram in Russian. How come Dadi Gulzar?
I don't think her Russian is that well.
She was in Russia in 1991, but I don't think she could speak that much Russian. But our first thought was, again, our trip is cancelled. So what are we going to do? We are going to hide this telegram. We will not tell anyone. As we reach Madhuban, we will tell them and Dadi Gulzar that, sorry, we didn't get any telegram from you. Well, and then later we understood that it was just some very foolish idea, but that it was not a real telegram. But it was a test at that time for us. Really, it's like another drop. And okay, we hid that telegram. Those people at the airport, they were asking, okay, so are you canceling or what? I said, no, we are going. And on the third day, there was a flight. So we could get on board. And that whole group from the Southern Republic of Russia, they could also get on board. They were very grateful. And they were thanking Baba so much for his help. And we reached Madhuban, we reached Pandav Bhavan, 1992. So no Gyan Sarovar at that time, and they told us, don't worry, Baba has not yet come. Dadi was already on the stage, so it was about 7 p.m. Dadi came, but Baba will stay for a long time. So take your time, go take dinner. Someone was telling us, but what? Baba is about to come. We overcame so many obstacles. So immediately after taking bath, we, rushed into Om Shanti Bhavan, and no translation, no headphones. Just we didn't think about anything. Just that Baba is here, and we have to meet Baba. And after the Murli, it was announced many times that. Please, this time, no one is going to come on the stage. No one. Please, no one. This time, no. And there was one sister. Please, just listen what I'm going to tell you, but don't do it, never. It's not a good example. So she said, I have to sing a song for Baba. I wrote a song for Baba, and I want to sing. And it is announced so many times, no one, please. So she rushed to the stage, and I rushed after her saying that, but she doesn't know English, so I have to translate. So I have to be there too. And we came, and the brothers are standing there, and we needed a lot of courage, because they were not at all ready to let us on the stage. And Baba was sitting, and Dadis were sitting already around Baba, and someone of Daddies saw us, and then Baba also saw us and sort of motioned that, okay, let them come. So we came, we were in front of Baba in Om Shanti Bhavan, and Baba gave us she forgot her song, you know. She could not sing. They gave her the mic, but she could not. And remember the first line. And but Baba gave us a very long drishti and toli, and all other 6, they saw it. And so they ran onto the stage as well. And those brothers say, okay, oh yeah, those Russians, you know. But then the thing is that why I'm telling this story of courage, because we were very proud, you know. We took a lot of pride in ourselves. Okay, we did it, you know, 100% following Srimad, doing everything. And so that was our success, you know. Baba, just see, we have come, we are here in front of you. And I remember very well what Baba said at that time. Baba said that Baba knows that children had a lot of, I mean, it was not personal. It was later when Baba was meeting our group, big group, but we took it as very personal. That Baba knows that his children had to overcome so many difficulties to reach their home, to reach their father. But tell me, who remembered whom first? Did you remember Baba first when you had those difficulties? Or did Baba remember you first? And for me it was like, oh, but I'm so proud that, okay, I was just waking up at 4 o'clock at Amrit Vela, or, you know, reading Murlis at the airport and saying that I'm... But actually Baba was remembering us even at that time. Baba knew the situation and Baba was helping all the time. And for me it was like... it was Baba's, you know, Baba's power, Baba's help, Baba's support. Not exactly what we did mattered, and because of Baba we could make it. So, and this story is very important for me. So I just, maybe some of you heard it already, but I like to remember it again and again, like when Baba says, don't forget the days of your childhood. That was my childhood, and I hope that this, you know, level of intoxication, enthusiasm, it will remain forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Sasha Bai. Beautiful story, and I'm sure all of you enjoyed that one as well, didn't you? Does it kind of bring up certain feelings within you? This bhavna and this love that we have for Baba and for Baba's children, and just to understand what others go through to get here. And you might complain because you have a middle seat instead of an aisle seat or window seat. So next is Sister Helena, and she has another interesting story. Now, these two ran into the storm, right? They started their travels, and a storm came up. I think that Helena's story is a little bit different. She kind of created and took the storm with her, and we'd like to hear about that, Sister Helena.
Om Shanti. When I was asked to share my story of courage, my first thought was, actually, it's not my courage, because we all know that without Baba, what could happen? It's his power and it's his inspiration. I was, like my two previous speakers, I was born in a communist country, in this birth, and as far as I remember, I felt like I was in a cage, a strange place I was born. And when I became a teenager, my only thought was to somehow get out. But how? In a communist country, you don't get a passport. You just can't leave. Nobody leaves. But also I can now understand that it's such a divine plan of God and drama. It's all pre-planned. Because at the age of 17, all of a sudden, it was my Lokik family planning, I did get a passport. And I was told that I'm going to go to a very far country, to Canada, where my other Lokiks were staying. So I was leaving the country, not having a clue, why am I going and where? And after staying 10 years in Canada, which was very different from a communist country, closed from the rest of the world, and actually quite poor. Nobody starving, but a third world country dominated by communism. And then rich, very rich Canada, open, free. You can do anything you want, and yet not real happiness. Not at all. And after 10 years of living there, I always thought, I felt I'm living like in a dream, and one day I'll have to wake up. But how? I didn't know. Well, until the moment that Baba sent a messenger to me in Canada. It was a sister from, I think, Guyana, who was already in knowledge, and I can't remember her name. She still lives in Canada. No. She gave a message to a brother that I knew, and then he started to attend the classes, and I saw this enormous change in him, and I went too. And you know, once you recognize Baba and you get knowledge, Baba raises your consciousness so high that all the trivial things and mundane things, they seem to be so down below. Or you've got all this intoxication, you have found God. So the next thing was, you're so happy you want to share your happiness. But in Canada, nobody wanted that happiness because they were quite happy with their materialistic happiness. So my next thought was, well, I'm sure there is a reason why I know the Polish language. So I decided to go back. But I was not aware at that time what was going on in Poland. After 50 years of communism regime, the nation was ready to be free. And there was a lot of upheaval going on. And the famous Solidarity movement was in full force. So when I mentioned to Jenti that I'm going back to Poland, she was terrified. She said, why? It's too dangerous. However, Brother Nirwer introduced me to Babdada, and he told Babdada that Sister Halina is going to Poland. And I remember up to today, Babdada smiling at me so sweetly and saying, it's okay, child. Father's hand of protection will be always on your head. That was enough. Yeah. And so, having Canadian passport, I traveled to Frankfurt. And in Frankfurt, the officer who was responsible for letting me further on into Polish border, when he saw me and he saw my passport, he said, sorry, you cannot go back. It's too dangerous for you. I cannot let you pass. Which year was this? 1981. And because it's a divine plan, and God is responsible, so He will always send someone. At that moment, another officer came in, and he was Polish. And he looked at my passport, and he said, "You're free, you can go." So from Frankfurt, I was coming back after 10 years to a country where thousands of people were escaping from the country because they didn't know what the future of the country was. And the Russian troops were standing at the border ready to march in. I didn't know that. And I wasn't too much concerned about, because when you come to the end of your own personal cycle and you're looking for real answers, that's what's most important for you at that time, to find your own answers. And the situations of the world play a secondary role. So, also at the Polish border, when they checked my passport, it was very nice, very cute, because the man said, seeing me living in Canada for 10 years and coming back when thousands were trying to escape and many lost lives, he said, "I'm sorry, I apologize, we are not meeting you with an orchestra." But he didn't know why I was coming back. And after 1 month, I went back to a place where I was born. I heard on the radio, little radio that we had, that the country was put into a martial law. And that meant all the Solidarity people were put to prisons overnight. Borders are closed. All the food was withdrawn from the shops to scare the nation, to scare the people. And it's December 13th, and I am back in Poland alone, but I have a ticket to go to Madhuban. And it's 2 days before Christmas. How Baba helps all the way. It's really amazing. I am standing at the railway station, and the last train that I was supposed to travel to Frankfurt to go back to India already left. And that was the last train that left Poland for the next few years. So I'm standing there. It's 8 o'clock in the evening, and I'm just remembering Baba, because I'm quite sure I am under God's protection. And then, out of nowhere, an engine of a train arrives and stops in front of me. And the man says, "Do you want to go somewhere?" I said, "Yeah, my train just left for Frankfurt." He says, "No problem, get on, we'll catch it." So I went, I arrived in Madhuban. And of course, then after Madhuban in March, I went back. And I had a very strong feeling that I have to give Baba's knowledge. This is the most beautiful and wonderful knowledge which makes you free. How to start. But that was not a problem, because the moment I started to speak about meditation, I went to the capital of the country, and I started to conduct meditations. Baba was doing his wonders. So many people had such wonderful experiences. They just saw light. At that time, there were no commentaries. I would just, person sit in front of me on the floor, look here, and that's it. And off we would go. Baba would do his magic. That was 82. There was no food in the country. Nobody knew what the future will be. But this is the time where also souls could probably feel God's calling them, because soon I was surrounded by something like 200 people who wanted to listen to knowledge. And so, in a country where there is literally nothing to eat except maybe potatoes and apples, no one knows what the future will be. God's work is going on. In a martial law, you're not allowed to have any public meetings. But how could I give the knowledge? So we found a students' club, and that's where Baba was having his meetings. Many people were tuning in and listening to knowledge. All I know is that a secret police was also listening to knowledge. They would hide among others, and this was 3 times a day. Now, they must be wondering, because 6 o'clock, there was already 30 people listening to Murli. 10 o'clock, something like 60 people would arrive every day, and in the evening after work, over 100 every day. And I know, I was recognizing the secret policemen because they would listen to what I was saying, but during each meditation they would walk out and smoke cigarettes. They were not interested. Now we had already something like 100 people ready to go to Madhuban, because what you do after you give knowledge and they start to listen to Murli, you take them to Madhuban to meet Baba. So I announced that now maybe we should go to Madhuban, not aware that these people still cannot go out of the country. In a martial law, you're kept, you're stuck. So I asked, how many of you would like to go to India? 80 people were ready to go. Okay, so I didn't know that in a communist country still, the travel agency belongs to the government. Everybody knew that you don't get passports, except me. I didn't know that. So we went to this travel agency and we said we are going to India. We are a group. They didn't realize that we are not registered, we're not an official group, and they could not imagine that we could just come like that and ask for passports. They thought we were probably sent by the government. So they started to issue us passports. And but we were being watched by the secret police very well. One day, because I had a plan, I wanted to register Baba's work in Poland. So I was visiting this minister and giving him a bit of gyan and trying to make friends with him so that he would register us. On that day, I remember, it was 11 o'clock in the morning. After talking to him, he was very nice but wasn't doing anything. I said goodbye and he walked after me. On the stairs, he looked around whether somebody was listening or not. He checked and he whispered in my ear, I know you're planning to go to India. If you want to go, you must go today. Tomorrow you will not be able to. And he disappeared. That evening, 24 of us took the only possible flight to India. We had to pack in 2 hours. And all the rest people next day, they were all stopped at the airport. No one else could go. So 24 people arrived in Madhuban. You can imagine how much love we received from the seniors, from BK family, and from Baba. Out of the whole communist bloc, the first group arrived. Of course, when I went back, they were waiting for me at the airport. They took away all my documents, all my IDs, but I was not worrying. And there was one thing that happened before that, before the first group left for Madhuban. I was giving regular classes and meditations, and there was a lot of interest. We were meeting in few different places in Warsaw. And I was living in a flat with one sister. She was a very strong solidarity leader. And I didn't know that, but she was also interested in yoga. And probably some of you believe in dreams. Baba also many times inspires us through dreams. On that day, I had a dream in the morning. I saw 3 black dogs that were released from their chains and were coming at me. I got a little scared, but these dogs came to me, they just sniffled around and went away. 3 hours later, there is a strong bang at the door. I opened the door, I was wearing my sari at that time, and there are 2 policemen and a lady, and they say to me, "You come with us, you're going with us." They took me to the main police station in Warsaw. Now, and what happened in the next, I think, 2 hours, they tried to force me to tell the truth. They were expecting me to say, "I am an American spy."
You don't sound American.
Whatever I said, they didn't want to listen. So they were trying to threaten me. They said to me, "If you don't tell the truth, we'll take everything away from you." And I was thinking, but I have nothing. What will they take from me? I have no property, I have no money. I just came like that. But they insisted, and you, I don't know if you probably, some of you will know, trained people to force you to tell the truth. And actually 2 of them were women and 1 man. And then they told me, if you don't tell us the truth, the lady that you're living with, she will lose her flat. And he said, "This is the paper, see? You tell the truth now, or I give a signature and she loses the flat." And then I thought, well, I have to do something. I have to do something, Baba. What can I do? And then I think it was Brahma Baba who inspired me. He reminded me that actually he started his work with sisters, with women. And I had these 2 police women in front of me. They were trying to force me. They were very brutal, very not nice. And then I started to look at them with that vision that Baba had for women. You are mothers. You shouldn't be behaving like this. I wasn't saying anything. It was just my thoughts. And it was Baba's magic. All of a sudden, they just stopped. And they said, "Okay, lady, you're free, you can go. We'll accompany you to your place."
Thank you, Sister Helena. There's one thing that you left out.
What's that?
One of the biggest sacrifices. And I asked you earlier, I said, what was the hardest thing for you? And just very briefly, could you tell everybody what that hardest thing was for you. The thing you haven't even mentioned.
When I came to Baba, I had a child, and he was 4 years old. And you know, to do service having like a baby in your hands, that would be very difficult. My lucky mom always told me, if you have any problems, just send your child, I'll take care of him. So that's what I did when I came to Baba. And then, of course, I went back to Poland and I used to see him. But I think mothers will know this because it takes some time. I think the biggest obstacle, it's not the secret police, it's not the prison, it's not the danger, it's not even what people will say, because after the communism was over, I didn't realize that there was an even stronger obstacle. It was an attack, and that's from the Catholic Church. It's the religions who are bigger enemies. But out of all this, the biggest obstacle, more difficult to conquer, is attachment. Attachment to your child as a mother. But I think that's now over.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing a song from your heart. So we've heard all of these songs, these challenges, these storms. And in the middle of a hurricane or a storm, there's always the eye. But it's still in the storm. But the eye of a hurricane is very calm. It's still. It's even stiller than calm. It's just still. And you wonder when the rest of it is going to come around. Well, Dolly's story is like the eye of the storm, because Dolly is, you know, she's so even-tempered. And I went to Sister Mohini and I said, could you recommend someone from the zone to tell a story of courage? She said, Dolly, immediately. And her story is a little different, because Mohini Ben was saying, Dolly came, she had a family, she had a husband, she had a child, she worked, and she started doing service, and slowly she just kept doing more service, and became very dedicated, then would stay at the center sometimes. And when I met Dolly, she was living at the center and going home once a week to visit her family. And so it was this kind of subtle courage that I really admired about that whole scenario. And so I would like Dolly to share that with us.
Om Shanti. You heard it all, so do you still want to hear it?
That was just a prelude.
Well, after hearing all these adventures, and I remember when Vedanti Ben came to the New York area, to the USA, she was packed with these stories of bravery. And so when I hear of Africa and sisters, that is the image I have, that here come Baba's true lionesses. I think my story, I don't know, do I have a story?
Do you think she has a story? Of course, yes.
Well, let me put you my story in a nutshell. I came to the United States. I am from India, born here, brought up here, everything. I went to the United States as a student, so I was alone. Then I became 2, then I became 3, and now I'm back to being alone.
That's the end? You're going to leave us like that?
Well, that is, in a nutshell, the story. But anyway, if you want the details, because Baba always wants us to be, essenceful. And it's 12:15, so I thought essence might be good, but I'll share a few details if you really need. I never really took knowledge per se in India, but I was connected to the institution, the organization, and this goes way back to the late 60s, 1968 to be accurate, when Dadiji used to be in Bombay. And so I used to spend a lot of time with her. I was studying then. And I come from a very independent home. My only restriction was that I wasn't allowed to overnight anywhere except the center. So, but I guess I learned a lot from Dadiji, just being with her. So when I went to the United States, this was 1974, and it was against, Dadiji was not in Bombay then, she had moved to Madhuban. But there was another Dadi Pushpshanta, she was in the Colaba Center. And so she told me to not go. But, I was disobedient now and then to the Dadis. So I said, no, I'm going, and I did. And then what happened, drama unfolds itself. It changes all of a sudden, and you don't know what happened. But on the 4th of July, in the United States, the 4th of July is the Independence Day. Perhaps most of you know. If you don't, you know it now. Now, on the 4th of July, on the Independence Day of such a huge, wonderful, great, one of the great powers, such a country, I lost my independence. And it simply means that I got married. And I think to get married was courageous, to tell you the truth. But anyway, and then, then we had, the center started in 1978. Sister Mohini came, and a lot of fun and excitement, etc. But one of the things that my spouse had was that I had to listen to him, and I was not used to listening to anybody except my own parents or to Dadi. And as I told you, I did disobey Dadi. Now and then, I came here, I disobeyed, but anyway. And so, what he would do, he would blame everything, my not listening to him, he would blame it on the Brahma Kumaris. And that is one thing that would raise my temperature, not my blood pressure, but the temperature. And when the temperature goes high, you know what happens. So we would have these arguments and bickering. And then, I slowly began to realize that what's the point? A week of married life was enough for me. I was ready to pack up. A week? Yes, even less, a day. But to tell you the truth, we are still married. Anyway. So, Baba has always said that happiness is your birthright. It's the attainment of the confluence age. And I said, this is not happiness. And, my husband wanted me to take his permission. I had never took permission from anybody. So I never took permission. I would tell him that this is what I'm going to do. And I would do it. And so there was this thing, that tension at home. It just didn't work. And then I would we would go to the center. I became a mother. And so one day, the little kid whose mother I was, actually I still am, I keep forgetting And so she said, "Mommy, we have to go to class." So she was about maybe 7, 8, or 8 years of age. I said, "Yes, we have to." And so the next morning, we just got up and went to class. And so we came back, ready to face some kind of music, as they say. But, nothing really happened. And that I began to learn that fear, apprehension, courage, it's all here. Because of whatever we feel, we become apprehensive of the future. But if you're really honest, if you're not doing anything wrong, just go ahead and do it. As long as Baba okays it. So that's what we started to do. Anyway, after that, I have never missed a morning class. And this was in the early 80s. Because strength comes really from the morning class, not from reading your Murli at home or whatever. Today we've got Skype and telephone and whatnot. But to be in the class, and it's just different. And then one of the things that, my aim in life always was somehow to be like Dadiji. And you see how far away I was from that aim, that goal. But so I knew I had to do something, but I didn't quite know what. Then this was the first step. You may call it courage or just unfolding of the drama, whatever it is, was to attend the morning class on a daily basis. Then my second thing that happened in my life, Dadi Janki asked me, "What do you do with all the money that you make?" She meant my salary. I used to work. I was with the Department of Education, a staff developer, New York City. So she said, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, Daddy." So she said, "You should have your own bank account." Now, you from the Western countries are perhaps may not, relate to it, but in India, for a wife to have her own account, when you have this typical Indian situation, my father was different. He saw that he thought all ladies in his language should be financially independent, but not with my husband. Anyway, because Dadi said, I did it. And so we had another, situation that, this is what the Brahma Kumaris are teaching you. So, but I had learned to stay quiet because it just didn't make sense to talk back, to someone who couldn't think. In that sense, he thinks well, but not in that sense. You know what I'm saying, right? Not to put anybody down, but anyway. So that was very nice. It's always nice to listen to our dadis. Whatever they say, I'm telling you this, just do it. It's always very beneficial. And so it was very, very nice. I was able to somehow financially serve better. And then the third thing, to make it really concise, I used to come straight from school. I used to go straight to the Center Global Harmony House in New York. And by the time I would get home, it would sometimes be 10 o'clock. So one day my husband said, you come home so late, why don't you stay close by? I said, that's wonderful, of course. So, but somehow it didn't happen. one of the things that was very nice in my family, my spouse did his own thing. I did my own thing. And Geeta, whose mother I am, did her own, in the sense, she studied. She's a very good kid, by the way. When I say own thing, I don't mean she went the wrong way. But in the sense, we were very independent, still. So one day I told him that I really, didn't want that kind of life, because what happened, Baba would keep saying, be a conqueror of Maya and a conqueror of this and a conqueror of that. And this conquering thing, for me, was a very long, drawn-out process. Maybe I was impatient, or I don't know what to say. And so I said, what should I do? And so I decided that instead of being a conqueror, going through that process, just be the conqueror. So I started to tell myself, I am the conqueror. That gives you a lot of energy. And I think that's a very nice thing that Baba is teaching us. He's saying, children, you are. Not that you will be, but you are. That's how he looks at us. And so I spoke to my husband that I really wanted a different life. I didn't want to continue to waste my time the way I did. He says, what time? You don't waste any time. You're there anyway. I said, yes, you're right. But now let me be there fully. How about that? So he looked at me and he said, all right. And today I have full cooperation from everywhere. He calls, he lives in Florida. I'm in New Jersey, where I'm based. And Geeta, whose mother I am, also lives not too far from there, but she has her own place. But very, very cooperative. He calls at least once a week and he says, do you need anything? On one occasion I told him, yes, we need 100,000 for the center. He hasn't responded yet. But hopefully.
Was that rupees or dollars?
Well, in America, you make dollars. So anyway, as I said, I'm back to being one, but we are still three, but I have full cooperation. And in this, my heart goes out, yes, to Baba, of course, but in the beginning, I really didn't know Baba. My, support was really Dadiji. I mean, I learned a lot from her. I can't tell you. I didn't know that I was learning so much. Actually, the final step, which I think was a step of courage for me, the rest of them weren't courage, they were just happening. But this is when Sister Mohini asked me to move to New Jersey to take care of a center. I'd never done that. And so, and there are so many situations when you take care of a center. Most of you would know that, right? You're probably all center coordinators sitting here. Handling your household, I think, is much easier than taking care of a center. What do you think, Mandaben? You do agree, even though you don't have the experience of the other house? But see, I have all the experiences, right? Just this word household. It used to make me, I don't know, how do you say, cringe. It's like, household. It was like I was under house arrest or something. I wanted to just get out of that word. I don't know, is that wrong? I'm sharing my feelings. So no hard feelings to householders, it's just my thing. And so I think Baba helped, and Dadiji very much so. And then I also have my very, very heartfelt thanks to Sister Mohini, who was always a wonderful support in my life. And I saw her also, take many courageous steps, just like that. And so I have learned a lot. Thank you very much. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Dolly Ben. So we saw all the faces of courage, quiet courage. And I'd just like to add something that Sister Mohini shared with me about Dolly, that she is so, I'm sure you feel her quietness and her even-temperedness in the way that she talks. And she just, expresses herself so well. And so Sister Mohini said that the center that Dolly facilitates is the only center where she has never got a complaint about the in-charge. Amazing. She said, because she's so quiet and she's so even-tempered. She didn't use that word, but whatever word she used, but she's just so soft-spoken is what she said, And so that's, it's like a very subtle courage. And so we saw all the faces of courage, and I want to thank all of the wonderful, warm stories of courage. And we don't have time for feedback to share from all of you, but maybe later on we can. What did that invoke in you? Or maybe you can even think about it in the meditation that we're going to have now. What did that invoke in you? What were the feelings? What did that bring up from your past? What did that encourage you or inspire you to become or to forge on the path that you are, maybe giving you just extra support? Because all the stories were different. And thank you for listening. You've been a fabulous audience. Om Shanti.